Hi, this is Jumi,
And this is Catherine,
and welcome to the Rabideau Law.
Business Law Show.
On the show, Catherine and Jumi discuss everyday business law questions and issues that come their way with the aim to simplify and enlighten. This is a four-part series show. Information shared on the show does not constitute legal advice.
Good morning, Jumi. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Catherine? Good
I'm
morning.
good. I'm good. Thank you.
Good to see you.
You
That's a
too.
nice mug, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Has my initial on it.
Yeah, lovely.
My daughter bought it for me.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. I wanted to talk to you today about incorporation,
Mm-hmm.
or incorporating, I should say. We've had quite a few clients approach us lately, about incorporating a new business.
Yeah.
And they have pretty similar questions, the majority of them. So I thought maybe we could go over uh, some incorporation questions.
Question. Yeah.
And yeah,
And I think it's a good time because we usually get questions from ranging from what to do if I want to incorporate. And some people even ask us about the benefits and then all the way to our processes. So I think that's a good one. Let's
yeah,
go.
yeah. So one of the main questions is, why should I incorporate? What's the difference between incorporating a company or just having a sole proprietorship?
Right.
Mhm.
That's a good one. Um, some people don't know that sole proprietorship, they're actually sole proprietors. Once you start a business, probably you're just running it in your full legal name and you're doing the business, you're already a sole proprietor. Um, I've had questions come in where people say, "Oh, I incorporated." I said, "Did you ever register with a with the ministry?" And they were like, "No, but I incorporated." But really, what they did was they registered their sole proprietorship. They registered the
Mhm.
business name. So all those
Yeah,
things are different from incorporation. When you incorporate, you register your name, your business, not your business name. You register a name with the ministry, and you have a corporation, or some people call it a company, and that corporation is separate from you, the business owner.
mhm.
So it's a separate legal entity. It can sue and be sued. It can enter into contracts. It can have creditors chase it actually, and I think that brings us to one of the benefits. I mean, the benefits that we discuss about having a corporation, right? When you
Right.
have creditors, maybe you got a loan, the corporation got a loan, and then creditors are after you for the loan,
Mhm.
right? It's not the shareholders or the directors or the officers of the corporation that own that loan, it's the corporation. So the
Okay.
corporation can actually go to court,
Right.
correct?
Like it's a person. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
It's a
own,
legal entity.
it's a legal
It's
entity.
yeah,
Um, so what I'm hearing is you have a lot more personal liability when you just have a sole proprietorship.
right,
And when you
correct.
have a corporation, you're a little
Hmm.
bit more protected
Yes.
personally,
Personally,
right?
and that what you just mentioned is what we call limited liability. So um when you are under a corporation, you have limited liability, whether you're the director or the shareholder. Unlike if it's a sole proprietor, it's 100% gain, 100% loss.
Right.
Like so that's a major difference. You have limited liability. If we're talking about benefits, we should also talk about access to capital.
Hmm.
As a corporation, you have easier access to capital, right? It's easier to go to a corporation, I mean, sorry, to the bank or a credit union has X and X Inc. or X and X Limited than if I go as Jumi
Right.
or you go as Catherine, all right?
Right.
So you have easy access to capital
Right.
as a corporation. I think something
Okay.
we've not mentioned, and I know we discuss this a lot. We discuss it among ourselves in the office and also with our accountants, is the tax benefits. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Because as a corporation, within a corporation, you're taxed at the corporate rate.
Mhm.
But if you're just by yourself, then you're taxed at your personal income rate, which is significantly higher than the
Yeah.
corporate tax rate. So those
Okay.
are things that you want to consider, right?
What
When you're
what
thinking
would
of an
you
incorporation.
say approximately is the difference between like a corporate tax rate or your personal tax rate
Personal tax rate, I think right now in Ontario, it's about 11.5%.
for
The
corporation?
corporate for the corporation, the corporate tax rate, while the on the highest end of the income, personal income tax rate is about 53%.
Wow,
So
that's
there's
a
a wide
huge
difference.
difference. Yeah.
Right. So those are things that people consider. You're considering the tax benefits.
Mhm.
Um, of course, there are also a lot of considerations that you have to put in when you're thinking. You can't just say tax benefits and then you run. Uh, so let me just go into a corporation.
Yeah.
You're thinking of the limited liability, access to capital.
Mhm.
Um, those three are major that you're thinking of benefits. It's
Okay.
also easier to sell your shares. It's easier to transfer. Let's say
Mhm.
easier to transfer the corporation to another person. And how do we do it? By selling the shares of the corporation. And that's when we're talking about mergers and acquisitions,
Mhm.
when we're doing buying and selling of the corporation, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to transfer the corporation, for example, if you're the sole shareholder in the corporation and you're done, or
Yeah.
you just want to you got an offer
Mhm.
for someone wants to buy your corporation, it's easier to do, right? You just
Right.
sell the shares and then we do the transaction, the acquisition for you. So those are the benefits, right?
Would you say that investors are more um, likely to invest in a corporation than a sole proprietorship? Or not more
Abs-
likely, but that would be a preference for investors?
I think so. I mean, not that I think so, I know so. I mean, we see it. We see it every time. I
Yeah.
mean, especially the sophisticated investors, they want a corporation.
Hmm.
They can track the records of the corporation. The last time we discussed about minute books,
Right.
right? They can see what the corporation has made and the
Yes.
loans that the corporation has gotten. I mean, the history of the corporation,
Yes.
how well the corporation is doing, and then they can buy the shares of the corporation, whether partially or 100%,
Hmm.
and own the corporation. So it's more attractive to investors, definitely, right?
So, yeah, and speaking about shares, I know a huge source of confusion sometimes, or just
Yeah,
common questions we get from our business owners or
yeah.
potential business owners
Hmm.
is about shares.
Correct.
What shares should I have in my corporation? What
Yeah.
shares should I issue?
Hmm. Very correct.
And yeah,
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah. And I think that's a great question. I mean question rather. Uh so typically we have the common shares and then we have the special shares. So you have the common share as a class of shares can also have, depending on what we usually ask our business owner or um, investors that come to us is what are your future plans? If in the some people will come and say, oh, I don't want to use this corporation for anything, I just want it to hold assets, I just want it to be very simple. So in that situation, we just give them, maybe create a common share and create a class of special shares,
Right.
nothing robust. Um, but for the people who have plans in the future to bring in investors, in fact, some clients or business owner want to bring in multiple investors, right?
Right.
So in that case, you want a robust so you don't want just common share, you want common share, maybe class A common, class B common, class
Right.
C, D, and then special A, B, C. And the main difference, there are lots of differences, but the main difference is that the common shareholders usually have voting rights,
Okay.
while the special shareholders don't. So if
Right.
you want an investor down the line, for example, who you just want him to invest or her to invest, but not really have a say in the
Yeah.
corporation,
Yeah.
right? You're thinking
Yeah.
of special shares.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
for example, if I have common shares, I can make their voting, I can make the decisions along with the other common shareholders. for
Right.
the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Special shares, they get benefits, they get dividends, rights,
Dividends.
things,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't make any
Decision.
decisions of the
Correct.
corporation
Right. Yeah.
unless there's a shareholder agreement, which we'll talk about another time,
Correct. Correct.
that
Yeah.
grants them certain rights.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
we'll leave that for another conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Um,
think something we will like I would like us to discuss also is the difference between federal. I think we get that a lot too.
oh, should I incorporate federally or
Or
provincially?
provincially.
Yeah,
Yes, we get that quite a lot. And
yeah.
I think if I'm going to start, it's the main difference. There are many differences, but number one, it depends on you. Just like shares, like common or special, it depends on you. What are your future plans? And then
Mhm.
based on your future plans, investment plans, we issue the shares. The same with federal and provincial. It still depends on you. We'll listen to you, but if we're going to say the main difference is that if you incorporate federally, you
Mhm.
can say the name is more protected
Right.
than if it's provincially.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're trademarking the name, but it's not a trademark. Don't get me wrong,
It's
but
yeah.
you have that, and some people also think of international if you have a lot of cross-border
Mhm.
transactions, right? You're
Right.
thinking of you're thinking of incorporating
Yeah.
pro, federally, right? But still you have to know that it's even though you incorporate federally. I mean, Catherine, I know you like to talk about this. But even though you incorporate federally, you still have to register this business. Please go
Right.
ahead.
Right. Right. So to do business in each province,
Yeah.
you need to register your business in that province. So if you incorporate a business in Ontario and you want to do some work in Alberta, you have to register extra provincially.
Right.
Same thing if you incorporate federally. You still have to register your business in each province that you want to work in.
Correct.
Now, the only difference is that if you incorporated federally, your name is protected. So you can use the same company name in each province, regardless of if there's already a company that exists in that province with a similar name.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you have a company in Ontario and you want to do business in Alberta, and there's a company that has in Alberta that has the same name, then you will have to choose a different name for that province
Mm-hmm.
only. So that's a big kind of difference between
Friends.
federal.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't plan on doing business across the country,
Or internationally too.
it's certainly much easier to
Yeah.
just incorporate provincially.
Correct.
The federal incorporation process can be a longer process,
Mm-hmm.
and it can end up costing more. Um,
Correct. Yeah.
yeah, there's issues with the name you want to use,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big one. So we always recommend
Yeah.
incorporate provincially if you don't plan on doing
Yeah.
a lot of business across Canada.
Right.
Um,
Or even internationally, because
yeah,
we have people who maybe they're in the States or in other countries and they want to do business and they feel,
yeah,
it's better to have a Canada Inc. I mean,
yeah,
than to just, but
yeah,
definitely we'll always listen
yeah,
to what you want, and then together we'll decide what do you
yeah.
want. I mean, what are your plans? And but like Catherine, like you rightly mentioned, it's always easier to go provincially.
It's immediate. If you want to
Right.
incorporate provincially, we can
Yeah.
get that done.
In a day
Submit all the
or two.
information.
Yeah.
It's all done online, and within minutes we
Yeah.
get your articles. But then what
Correct.
happens? What
Correct.
happens after you receive your articles of incorporation?
Incorporation.
Yeah,
It's always very interesting to me because as lawyers we get we are almost like fixers. So we get this question and we get this issue. This is an issue we get a lot where someone says, I incorporated, and truly they incorporated.
Yeah.
And then they want to get a loan from the bank, maybe, for example, and the bank says, go and bring your shareholders register. Like, we don't have shares. Like, we incorporated. Or they want to sell. They suddenly say they got this fantastic offer and they say,
Yeah.
I want to sell this business.
Yeah.
Please, I want to sell 100% of my shares, but I never issued shares. Like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the thing is, the law requires you, upon incorporation, it's not just to incorporate and forget that business there until when an offer comes to sell
Yeah.
or something. No, it's after incorporation, what you do matters. The law requires you, for example, to appoint officers. You have to have a president and a secretary.
Yeah.
We are treasurers, but the law requires president and secretary.
Yeah.
You
And
issue shares,
who
right?
owns the company, right?
Exactly. Who owns the company? The directors. You have to appoint director. The director is the one who runs day-to-day operations of the corporation. The shareholders are the owners. If you didn't issue shares, you've not done anything. So we call that corporate organization. So what we do immediately upon incorporation, we move on to corporate organization. So, and we set up your corporation. And part of what we do, we first make sure you have bylaws. So we draft the bylaws of the corporation, right?
Yeah. Your corporation has to be governed by something.
Yes, like a constitution.
Rule. Yeah, exactly. So the bylaws are very important. And
Correct.
then you have to
appoint the officers.
Appoint officers, directors. They will manage the company. You have to issue shares to the people.
That's very important.
Who are going to own the company.
Yes.
And then also you have to appoint your accountants.
Yeah.
You have to appoint your accountants. You have to indicate where your registered office is.
Yeah.
For the ministry, this information has to be part of their records. So once we have all of those resolutions approved and signed by the directors and the shareholders, then we have to register all of that information with the ministry, who the officers are, who the directors are, and where the registered office is.
Yes, we file the form called Form 1. So it's almost like after doing the incorporation, that's just you've just done one, like you've done 50% of the work. The first step. The second step, most people would do the incorporation by themselves, don't bother doing it. And that's why some people ask, do I really need a lawyer to do I really need a lawyer to help me with this? I think that's where that difference really shows. And so we set it up properly for you, file the Form 1, and then that's when you can say you have a corporation. And then we put all those things in the virtual minute book, so you have access to it. You see how all those things they intersect?
Everything is
we incorporate, we put it in the virtual minute book, so you're all set up. Then you can say you have a corporation.
Exactly.
Right. Do we have any more questions?
No, I think we covered quite a bit.
All right. I think we've done justice to this one too.
We have. All
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine.
Good to see you.
Great seeing you.
I'm sure I'll be coming by to see you later again.
Or I might pop upstairs before you. You never know.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.